I'm going to take you through the squads for the Australia versus England first test and tell you how I think the game is going to go. So for Australia in the front row, they have Angus Bell, David Parecki and Alan Alatoa. So of course we all know how good Alan Alatoa is, a very high capped Wallaby international. But the other two, not so experienced. Angus Bell has got 16 caps, which is a fair amount of caps, but not to the same level as Alan Alatoa. And David Parecki, this is going to be his first cap for Australia in the front row. So interesting to see how he will do in this game against England. So in the second row, they have Darcy Swain and Caden Neville. Now I can't say I know much about either of them. It is Caden Neville's debut, and Darcy Swain is another player who has got less than 20 caps in this Australia pack. Now in the back row, they have Rob Leota, Michael Hooper, who is the captain, and Rob Valentini. Now this is a very good back row, but an interesting thing about this pack, very, very low in caps, with two players making their debut. They'll be coming up against a strong England pack. But perhaps the inexperience of this pack is maybe dampened a bit by the experience of their halfback partnership with Nick White at 9 and Quade Cooper at 10. Two fantastic players. Quade Cooper coming in to the Australia side at the tail end of last season for them, and playing the two games where they beat South Africa and really helped Australia kick on a bit. And you saw that after that in the Northern Tour when he wasn't there, they did struggle again without him. So I'm sure Australian fans are very happy to have him back. And of course, Nick White with his beautiful moustache, we all know how amazing he can be. He put in an amazing shift against England last year, I remember, and putting in some big heavy hits for a guy of his size. So in the centres, they have Samu Kerevi at 12 and Len Ikitau at 13. So a pretty good centre partnership. Don't know much about Ikitau, but Samu Kerevi, we all know how good he is. Another one of these Australian talisman in this team. Really helps push the team forward with some of his fantastic carries from midfield. Now in the back line, they have Marika Corambetti, Andrew Killaway and Tom Banks. Now Marika Corambetti, absolutely fantastic winger. Again, another one of these players who brings an awful lot of quality to this Australia team, and they are not the same team when he is not available, along with players like Kerevi and Hooper. On the other side, they have Kerevi, who came bursting onto the international scene last year, scoring tries for fun, and is an absolutely flying. And they've Tom Banks in at number 15. Don't know a lot about him. He's got around 20 caps for Australia. On the bench in the front row, they have Falau Fianga, Scott Seo, and James Slipper, with Matt Phillips at 19 and Pete Samu at 20, with Jake Gordon as the backup number 9 and Noah Lolosio as the backup 10, Jordan Pitaya as number 23. Now moving on to England. In the front row, they have Els Genge, Jamie George and Will Stewart. Now Will Stewart is the lesser experienced one here with around 20 caps. So he's more around the same level as a lot of the players in the Australia side for experience at international level. But he is playing alongside Jamie George and Els Genge, who are two hugely experienced players at this level. Jamie George did find himself at points being out of the number 2 jersey this season, but he has found his way back into the starting team, replacing Cowan Dickey, who has dropped today. With of course Els Genge, the Leicester captain, the Premiership winning captain, as the loose head prop. Now England have got two absolutely fantastic locks with Mauro Toji and Johnny Hill. Both players were on the British and Irish Lions tour in the summer. Two of the best options that they have in that position. Mauro Toji is one of the best second rows in the world right now. Now in the back row, they have Courtney Laws, who is the captain, Tom Curry and Billy Vunipola. So yes, Courtney Laws has been given the captaincy, even though there is another player starting in the backs today. And Tom Curry, we all know how good he is at stealing the ball. Fantastic 7. He has also played as captain for England recently in the Six Nations. And Billy Vunipola makes his way back into the England side and is starting for England. It's very interesting there, as he did find himself dropped over the last season. Now in the half-backs, another player has come back into the England squad after a while, with Danny Kerr at number 9, joining his club half-back partner in Marcus Smith at number 10. Now these guys have a fantastic relationship at Harlequins, but I did say interesting that Courtney Laws was the captain because at number 12 Owen Farrell is playing, who previously was the captain, but it looks like it has been given to Courtney Laws now instead, and he's playing alongside Joe Marchant at 13. Very interesting to see what Owen Farrell will bring with this sort of fluid attack that England are going for, where they don't necessarily have an attacking pattern after a couple of phases. Having that extra playmaker in there should really help make that much easier for them to do. Now in the back line they have Joe Cokanasiga, Jack Knoll and Freddie Stewart. Now Joe Cokanasiga is a very good winger, hasn't necessarily started a lot for England of late, but is fantastic when I've seen him been playing. And on the other side, Jack Knoll, who's the same, hasn't played a lot because of his injuries, but is fantastic wherever he plays, whether that be on the wing, at fullback or at 7, as Eddie Jones suggested once. Of course, Freddie Stewart has been one of the informed fullbacks in Europe this season, really burst onto the scene at the beginning of the season for Leicester and also for England. Now on the bench, as the front row replacements, England have Luke Cowan-Dickey, Mako Vunipola and Joe Hayes. At number 19 they have Ollie Chesham with Ludlam at 20. At 21 Van Poortville, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce his name. At 22 Porter, and at 23 Arundel. So how do I think this game is going to go? Well, it's interesting, neither team has been playing maybe the best they could be playing of late. Australia had a disappointing tour in November, but were very good at home the last mid-year internationals and also in the Rugby Championship. So very interested to see how this game will go. I think England have a bit more experience in their team, especially in that pack. This would be a very useful weapon for them. We'll see how Australia deal with that. So it's a difficult call. Australia have some really good players in their team, but so do England. So I think I'm going to give it to England, but by 5 points. I could see Australia winning this, but I think England are just going to edge out by 5.